Hello again, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast, Retro Life for You, movies of the 1980s and 90s. My name is Chris Adams, your favoritist host of the show. Not Travis. Chris, not Travis. Just make sure we get that out there. Alongside me this week is, guess what? Not Travis. uh, we have Shalom with us this week. He is from the Three Dash Cousins podcast that I go on to occasionally, and he is actually returning to the show. Shalom, you did what would you do with me before? Do you remember?
I believe that we did the Grease episode
We
together.
did Grease, but wasn't there? Didn't you come on for a solo one too?
No, this is my first solo.
So it was you and Brian together for the Grease episode.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Unfortunately, Tivadar was not available.
No, Tibidar did Red Dawn with me.
Yes. He had a good
Yeah,
time with that.
yeah. Red Dawn was great. It was fun. So hey, tell everybody about yourself and the things that you're doing, man. Let them know.
Oh yeah. So as he said, I'm on the Three Dash Cousins podcast with my two cousins, Tiv and Brian. I'm also on several shows on the Rig Stories. It's the official site of the Story Crafter. It's rigstories.com. I play a wacky character in his Shrap episodes, and then in Copperheart, I play background characters in an upcoming series. I'll play a major part. So a lot of fun over there. It's rigstories.com.
Cool. You have to tell me more about that later. I'm not sure about that one. That's a new one to me. I know the
You know,
Three Dash
new is
Cousins
what
pretty
makes things
well.
old, right?
I know. I'm insane. I mean, you gotta fill me in on it. It sounds like something pretty cool. This week we are finally getting around. We've been talking about this for, gosh, months, 6 months, 8 months, trying to get this in probably sometime. Doing Cloak and Dagger. It's the 1980s film with Henry Thomas and Dabney Coleman. Um, Basically, the summary of the movie is Cloak and Dagger follows Davey Osborne, an imaginative 11-year-old boy obsessed with spy games, role playing, and the Cloak and Dagger video game. His father is Hal Osborne, a busy Air Force employee, leaving Davy to escape into a world of his own make believe, where he imagines his hero, Jack Flack, also played by Dabney Coleman, in a dual role, a super spy who guides him into dangerous situations. One day, while running an errand at the video game shop, Davy witnesses a real life murder and is handed an Atari game cartridge containing secret military plans hidden inside. Now, I know we got some younger people out there saying, "A what cartridge? A what?"
The
So
kind
we'll
you had to blow in to make work sometimes. I love
no,
them.
well, that along with Nintendos, right? But we'll
Right.
we'll we'll touch on that in a little bit for sure because that's definitely going to get brought up. Frustration. Um, it contains secret military plans. There's a secret chip hidden inside. No one believed the story, including his father, forcing Davy to go on a run with his friend Kim while being pursued by real spies who will do anything to retrieve the cartridge. Guided by his imaginary spy mentor, Jack Flack, Davy must navigate through espionage, betrayal, and life or death situations. As he loses his childhood illusions and comes face to face with real danger, he ultimately learns that heroes aren't invincible and that real courage comes from within. It just hearing the way it's described, it sounds like an excellent movie. And I think if they were to remake it today, they could make a really good movie out of it. And it
I
wouldn't be
agree.
wouldn't be an Atari cartridge, but
No.
I mean, they could
Be a
update it.
flash drive.
Right, a flash drive, or it could be if you're gonna stick with game systems, it could still be like a PlayStation game or an Xbox game, and on the DVD, it's got the stuff encoded inside the game with it, just like this one did. So it's always possible if they want to do it. Um, these people, starring in the movie, I mentioned Henry Thomas. Do you remember what Henry Thomas is most well known for? It's not this movie, but I mean, this is like a cult classic kind of a deal. It's got a following of its own, or this type of movie has a following of its own, and it falls under that where people have watched it and loved it. But
Yeah.
this is not the movie that Henry Thomas is really known for.
Oh no, no, no. He is known for E.T., the
Phone
extraterrestrial.
home. That's right.
And I gotta
Everybody,
tell you, in all honesty, I don't see the same kid that was in E.T. when I watched Cloak and Dagger.
no, it feels a little different for sure. Definitely, and,
Wasn't
and it,
whiny,
not as whiny. Well, I don't know. He's kind of whiny.
not compared to E.T.
Not TRDT, but he's kind of whiny in a way. Um,
Well, we'll get into that.
We'll get into that. Yes, this is, but I did really like this movie a lot growing up, and I just rewatched it the other day. I don't think I bought it. I just rented it. I think, pretty sure I did. It was, I think they wanted $15 to buy it, and I was like, nope, that old, that kind of movie, not giving you $15 for it. It'll go on sale eventually or something. I'll probably buy it for myself, but yeah, it's definitely well worth a rental. Um, but Henry Thomas, his dad is played by Dabney Coleman, who plays, like we said, the dual role as his father and as Jack Flack, which, kind of tells you, in a sense, he wishes he had more time with his father in the movie because that's who portrays his hero. And his
Oh,
father's in the
absolutely.
military, and he never has time. It seems like for him.
Well, and it was nice the way they did it in the movie where you didn't know who his dad was until all of a sudden he was there, and he was being Henry Thomas Davy was being handed over by the police to his father, and all of a sudden, wait, that's Jack Flack, but
Right.
that's a not cool looking Jack Flack. Because I'll be honest, I never thought of Dabney Coleman as a action star,
Hmm.
but he makes it believable in that movie when he's dressed as Jack Flack.
He does. And of course, I think they could take a camera and make either one of us look cool like a hero too if they wanted to.
Especially,
But
well, but I will say this, and this is a hill I will die on. Dabney Coleman was the last man that made a beret look good.
I would give you that.
I mean, Jean
I would.
Claude couldn't pull it off the way Dabney Coleman did.
Stallone couldn't pull it off in the Expendables either.
Nope.
Not
Damn,
really.
it looked like it belonged on Jack Flack.
Right. Absolutely. And then to see him start, they start off the movie with Jack Flack. It looks like it's a just an espionage movie already going on. It's him coming down with a parachute, landing on top of one enemy. The hits a button, the parachute just sucks right back up into his
And it's an
backpack. Right?
American flag parachute, don't forget.
Yes. Right. An American flag. Even back then, they were making America great again. I guess. I
I
don't
guess.
know.
I mean, it was the height of the Cold War, so they had to stash that in there somewhere.
Right. Right. And it's like his character is just like cool in his demeanor because he doesn't fear any of the bad guys around there, right? He the two that were talking before he lands on one of them had split up. The other one come back. He's trying to get a light from him, and it's not a real cigarette. It's a little trick thing that blows a dart out into the guy's neck, right?
Oh yeah.
Puts him out. Then he just calmly walks around the gate in his uniform he's in while a car pulls up, and it's some Arab dude in there with a woman and somebody else, and he proceeds to take them on to get what he wants.
Yeah, it takes them
I'm
all
like,
out.
I'm like, there's no fear at all. Uh, but he does a good job with the dual role, playing Jack Flack and playing the father. The game they're playing is called Cloak and Dagger,
Yeah.
and this is what's happening at the beginning of it. It's not a real thing going on. This is Davy and Kim and the guy from the game shop, Morris, and they're playing a
Which
game of Cloak and Dagger.
I'll be honest, I hadn't seen the movie in 40 years till I rented it before we did this.
Hmm.
And I was kind of dreading watching it because I wanted to think it was going to be as good as I thought it was as a kid, but I was debating that it was going to be as good. I watched it and I'm going, this is actually better than I remember. And I couldn't believe that Morris was played by William Forsythe.
I know. I was gonna bring that up, but I'm glad you did.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump on your
Oh, no, you're fine. When I think of William Forsythe, I think of The Rock. I
yeah.
think of Above no, not Above the Law, Out for Justice,
You think
the
of a very
Seagal
tough
movie?
guy, not a nerd with a
Yeah,
big old bushy beard
right, right.
in a game store.
That really that really threw me off.
Yeah.
I
One
was
of the things I
like,
think
"That
was
is not
funny
Bill Forsythe."
one of the things I think was funny as a gamer, as a role playing gamer, as a tabletop gamer, is how many copies of the whatever the current newest book was for Dungeons and Dragons were everywhere in there. And
Mhm.
they literally had bought like 20 of them and just stacked them up in every single rack. Like it was the biggest thing that ever sold. It was just so funny.
I've never played actual sit down at a table and played Dungeons and Dragons before. I I'm not saying anything's wrong with it because I would probably definitely do it if I was with a group of people, in person and we wanted to have some fun with it just to see how it would go. Because it's all there's a predetermined story, right? Based on what path you choose.
Yes and no. It depends on the GM, the game master. I
Okay.
I tend to go with what my players want to do, but But I also tend not to run D&D. I tend to run other games, like horror
Yeah.
games or spy games, things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Regardless, it can be fun for sure. Getting into all that. And wow, once again, William Forsythe definitely threw me off. He is nothing like his character in The Rock, and that's the one that stands out in my mind the most. And then, secondly, I guess Out for Justice, where he was like some coked out gangster or something who was just on a killing spree, until they stop him. But it was something else.
Yeah,
Um,
when I saw Morris, I'm like, I know who that is. Wait, who is that? I had to look it up, and I couldn't believe it when I saw it. So
yep. There are three guys, well, two guys in particular that are chasing Davy. Well, actually, before we get to that, let's get to Kim. Kim Gardner is his little friend.
the most annoying child I've ever watched in a movie. Yes,
Yes, yes. Oh
she
my
did it
gosh,
well.
she's sitting with her mother in the kitchen, and the mother's like, "Is he normally this way?" Because they're talking on the walkie talkies they got from Morris, and he's Davy's really into the spy part. He's like, um, what Jack Flack the Lady Ace, Jack Flack the Lady Ace, or CQ to QC, CQ to QC, come in QC.
She's just
Uh,
playing along,
yeah,
like,
just
okay, whatever.
yeah, and she's like, "This is what I meant, but don't be embarrassing."
I believe it was like, Davy, I don't want to play this way.
Yeah.
I believe that, it was that kind of voice, but much
uh,
worse, higher pitch.
it's very high pitched and shrill. It has me wondering if she did anything else,
She
beyond
has.
this, really. Uh,
Actually, she has. And if you look at her adult picture, you will recognize her.
well, let me
She
see
did.
I have not seen an adult picture of her yet because we're on this movie, so I don't know what the adult picture. Now, if I go to just her list of movies and stuff, we start in 81 and it goes only up to 2017. There's a big gap from 92 to
That's correct.
2017.
I mean, she did a lot of child star stuff. She has done some TV, and that's where I'd seen her picture.
Most of her stuff is TV, it looks like in here. I
Twilight
mean,
Zone, the movie, The Sword and the Sorcerer, Goliath Awaits, Lots of Luck. Um, she she's done a couple of things as an adult, but I think she's more behind the scenes now.
behind the scenes. So, okay, so what would I know her from, you think?
I remember her as the kid from the Twilight Zone, the movie. As an adult, I'm trying to remember what I saw her in, and I can't. I tried to research it, but as soon as I saw her adult picture, I knew who she was. But I'm like, where have I seen her? And IMDb had was no help.
No,
Um,
because that's where I'm at right now. I'm Googling okay,
where
so I'm
is
seeing her
oh
now.
here,
Yeah, that doesn't look anything.
Harry
Well,
and the
I know
Hendersons.
actually, yeah, she is in Harry and the
Yep.
Hendersons. Yeah, and actually, I mean, I can see it in her face.
Yeah,
Playing the Kim and everything. I can see that.
yeah. She was the teenage girl, and I believe in Harry and the Hendersons.
She
I
was.
think
You're right. No, you're right. I see it listed under her credits at this point.
so.
She.
She was. It was kind of
Oh,
surprising
okay.
that.
Hold on. Harry and the Hendersons TV series, not the
Yes.
movie. So we have to make sure we get that out there. There was a TV
Sorry. Yes, it was the
show, and
TV
then
show.
there's the movie. I was thinking the movie, but she is Danielle in the TV series.
Yeah, she's done a couple of things, and I've seen her on. I can't tell you what it is
Well,
because it just
okay.
escaped my brain.
I used to watch Out of This World all the time when it was on. She was a regular on Out of This World. She did 71 episodes.
Yeah. So she's been out there. At least, thankfully, she wasn't like Davy in everything she did, because otherwise, somebody would have gotten rid of her. I think.
She saw the audition thing and it says whiny little girl or whiny little friend to Davy. Says I can do that.
And I had flashbacks to my cousin who, we lived in the same house, and I was like, oh my God, that is exactly who my cousin was when I was this age of Davy. So,
Well, see, Morris sends the two on a little mission.
yes.
Davy wants to go on a real mission. He's really because nobody will play Cloak and Dagger with him now because Jack Black always wins. He never dies. So they're like, it's no fun. Let's do
And
something
he
different.
always plays Jack Flack.
Right.
He always
Always plays.
wins.
Always plays Jack Flack. He wants to win. So Morris says he gives him a thing to do by going to the vending machine and picking something up from this gaming place or something, I believe it was.
Yes, yes. It was
Um,
the newest specs on some kind of game.
right.
And don't forget, he also wanted his Twinkies from the vending machine.
Yes, in the worst way. Even tells Davey later after he's running from everybody, "You still owe me for them Twinkies."
Yes,
Um,
yes, he did.
so Kim goes up there to the secretary and gets the plans and things, and he's supposed to go get the Twinkie from the machine.
But he's taking
And
the
he's
stairs
well,
because
yeah,
they
he's
don't
taking
all
the
want to be in the same
stairs.
place. Yeah.
Right. And before this happened, he had noticed one of the guys getting in the elevator before them had a gun under his coat, under his jacket. So he doesn't let Kim get on the elevator with him because he said, I swear I saw a gun. Which, of course, she didn't believe him because he's always trying to be in full character
Mhm.
for Cloak and Dagger all the time.
Well, he was sneaking across the lobby
Right. Like you
badly.
couldn't see that.
He attracted the security guard's attention because of how
Oh,
badly he was sneaking.
all I could think of was watching something stupid like Bugs Bunny, who's tiptoeing across something and hiding behind the lamp, real skinny, where you can't see him now.
Yep.
But then he hides behind the television set or something, then gets real skinny behind the lamp, but he's tiptoeing across, like you see him obviously tiptoeing across the screen and then disappearing. So Davey thinks he can't be seen, I guess, is what it comes down to. Uh, but he takes the stairs and he's throwing a baseball around in there and everything while he's there. Stops at this one point and he starts talking to Jack. Jack is there with him now. He's kind of guiding him on his little mission. And so he sees his imaginary friend, obviously, throughout the movie. It's what Jack Flack does. Uh, Guides him throughout his real Cloak and Dagger mission here. He sees a guy get shot, which to me looks like it's across some kind of thing into another
So,
building.
so interestingly enough, I had to watch that scene twice.
Yeah.
What you were actually seeing was that the windows on the other
Hmm.
building were
Right.
mirror windows.
Right.
So you were seeing the reflection from the floor above. Now, granted, they were doing it with cinematography, so it was across the way, but that's how he was sitting there and talking to himself, looking at himself, and Jack's invisible. When Jack's there in the same window talking to him, it was because they were, and I'm air quoting here, mirrored windows.
Right. Right. And when I was a kid, I didn't pick up on that. I just knew I saw some guy get shot, and now all of a sudden, the guy from across away in the other building is coming down the stairs where Davy is. I'm like, what
Right.
in the world? How did that's fast? You know,
Teleportation.
teleportation. And then he tells him, "Don't let anybody get the game. Guard it with your life or something." Gives him the Cloak and Dagger game, and the two guys who shot him come out and take a shot at him, and he takes off running, and they're gone. Of course, they're being chased for a little bit, and he gets chased off quite often throughout the movie, until he has to make a deal with them. They pick up Kim at his house, so she come over there to get with him and on what's going on. The guys that played the main two, that was Tim Rosovich and Eloy, I'm gonna say is Casados, possibly. He
Shadows,
played
yeah. He played
Alvarez.
Alvarez.
Yeah. Alvarez and Haverman were the two. Now Haverman was Tim Rosovich. That guy I seen all over television when I was a kid. He was in every TV series show there was to be done. He was always a bad guy or some kind
Always
of
the
a henchman
background
or a
bad guy.
bodyguard. You're right. And he was on the A team so many different episodes, like at least 3 episodes, that I can remember. Maybe more, I don't know. But the A team always did it. They'd bring people back for reoccurring roles as different bad guys, like you haven't seen them before. I always thought that was funny. Maybe on Knight Rider as well, and Simon and Simon, I think.
Hmm.
Some other TV shows where he played the bad guy. But the other guy, Alvarez, I had seen him in things as well. And I'm gonna say it's probably the same thing as Rosovich, where he did a lot of background TV stuff as henchman and things.
That's true, but where he made his big time appearance was as a Native American. And I think it was like he started out in The Lawyer as an extra and then became the main character when the original lead passed away. I think it was something like that. Um,
he's been in plenty of actual movies
oh
now.
yeah,
He's not just it's not that he's really the main star of all these movies and everything.
no,
But he's been in Hollywood Homicide, which was he was Detective Eddie Cruz. It says Hollywood Homicide. That was um uh uh oh Jesus, Harrison Ford and somebody else, wasn't it?
I
Harrison
think
Ford.
so.
They were
Yes, Harrison Ford and Josh Hartnett.
Josh Hartnett. He was in Frost Nixon. He was in the comedy Bridesmaids. These are some of the things he's just known for. A movie called Dragon Wars D War, Homeless Native American. It said
Yeah,
we
I've
were
seen
talking
that
about being
movie.
Native American. But
Terrible special effects, but interesting story.
Sheriff in Primal Rage in
Yep.
2018. But lots of TV series as well: Shameless, Castle, Longmire, Rizzolian Isles, um, soap operas, Young and the Restless.
And half the time you saw him as a Hispanic man, and half the time you saw him as a Native American.
Right. It's if you just somewhat fit the bill, you can get thrown in there. George Lopez TV series. He was in that CSI Crime Scene Investigation TV series. I think my sister used to love that show. I never watched CSI though. NYPD Blue, Walker Texas Ranger. So yeah, definitely been around.
Yeah, he did a lot. He did a lot of work. But again, in the background.
In the background, yeah. I mean, we can sit here and list TV shows off all day long, like we did for the other, like I was starting to do for the other guy. But one thing I've found out in the past of doing this series that this podcast is people from the '80s in those movies. A lot of the people we seen that were supporting cast members were all over TV series. They were all working actors. They were all doing something all the time, and they stayed busy. And
And I'm not even sure they got credit for everything they did.
oh no, probably
Reality.
not. Probably not. There's people who, just sometimes they're listed in the movie, but it's uncredited, or their name didn't even appear, in the credits or anything. So I mean, it wouldn't be surprising. Um, Pretty cool though to see them when you see how many things they've been in. Uh, the couple. Do you remember the elderly couple?
I do indeed. And again, having been 40 years between watching it, I knew there was something with I remembered that there was something with them, but I didn't remember exactly what it was.
Hmm.
And they did such a wonderful job of making them just seem like a normal elderly couple.
Hmm.
And then they just happened to be everywhere that he ended up. And then it turned out that, well, I don't know if you want me to give that away, but
I look, if no one has seen the movie by now, then they're gonna watch it based on what we say, and they're gonna give it a watch regardless. We've already talked about the plot of the movie and burned it up anyway. So
that's true. Well, they turned out to be the bad guys that were buying said secret
yes,
from the disc. And I have to
yes,
say something about the Cloak and Dagger disc.
yeah.
You saw the disc and you saw that it was coming out and all this other fun stuff, and you waited desperately for it to show up so you could buy it and play it on your Atari. And it never came out because there really wasn't one,
Well, it wasn't called Cloak and Dagger. It was based on another game called Agent X, is
which
what
was
it
not
was.
anywhere as good.
But and I believe it was Atari 5200 also, not the
Mhm.
2600. Because I'm looking here, it says because the Atari 5200 version of the Cloak and Dagger wasn't complete during filming, the cartridge props are actually other 5200 games with the Cloak and Dagger label stuck on them.
Yep.
The arcade game was complete by that time, and the signal was piped into Morris's monitor whenever he played. You can actually see the upright game cabinet standing in Morris's computer room when Davey walks to get the walkie-talkie. I don't remember it being an upright video game either.
Uh,
It was never any place where I played video games. I
no, I
know
mean
that.
it may have been in the movie, but it was never in any arcade that I went to.
See, it's just like Last Starfighter, arcade, large cabinet arcade game. I would have loved to have played that as a kid.
Oh yeah.
That would look cool. But they never ever released an actual video game of it back then. Nowadays, people have actually recreated the game, I guess with permissions of
Mhm.
people who own the movie or whatever. But they recreated it and built the cabinet for it. It looks just like the one that was in the movie and everything, like exact duplicate, and it plays.
Just like
And
the game did on the movie.
just like the game. I mean, I saw one of the Comic Cons in Houston. online on YouTube, and Lance Guest that played the Alex Rogan, the Last Starfighter, who broke the record of the video game. It shows him trying to play it, and he was like, he said he didn't do very well with it. He said, "Look, I was never actually playing the game to begin with.
I
Okay,
was just moving my hands in random directions.
pretty much it was just a screen that was been it was a sequence that had been built, and it looks like this is what he's doing there, in the game, and it wasn't really him playing. Uh, but there you go. Um, the Cloak and back to the game itself, Cloak and Dagger, 1983. Game screens are mostly from the arcade version, not the Atari 5200 game consoles that would appear in the film. Although a 5200 version of the game was planned, it never was released due to the video game crash of 83 and eventual sale of Atari. The
Well, the
arcade
Atari
version,
5200 did not sell well anyway.
no, it did not. The 2600 really took off well because of the at the time we didn't have much choice for game consoles, right? There was the uh I don't even remember if ColecoVision was out at that point in time or not.
It was the first version of ColecoVision, which was not very good.
Yeah. Then they had a well, what was the other one called? There was ColecoVision, there was Atari,
Television,
huh?
that came later.
And television.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that came a little bit later.
Yeah.
But you
Look,
could get the adapter and play all the 2600 games on it.
yeah. Yeah. Oh, then it says here also the arcade version of Cloak and Dagger appeared in '83 prior to the release of the film. Next to Cloak and Dagger, games are boxes with a 5200 version of Tempest. Like the 5200 version of Cloak and Dagger, this game was never released.
Yeah.
So,
Tempest
uh,
was a fun game.
did you have an Atari?
I did.
Good.
I had a 2600
Yeah.
and I never got the 5200, but if Cloak and Dagger had come out, I probably would have bought it.
So we're gonna get a little sidetracked for a second. We always do, but this is still relevant to the movie, the Atari 2600. So it's we're talking Ataris. What was your favorite games on the Atari 2600?
All right, so Breakout, because you could play four-player Breakout, and it was
Mhm.
basically a smash game where you were playing the shield and you move the shield around your castle, and you got to keep your king alive and kill all the other ones.
Yeah, Breakout, Super Breakout, those were fun. Combat was kind of fun.
Combat was fun.
You had tanks and planes and helicopters, and you're fighting each other with.
I was also a fan of like Asteroids and Joust. So
I never really cared for Joust. I didn't really care for Defender. Missile Command, Space Invaders, Pac Man. The three big arcade games
mhm.
back
And
in
then
that
Miss
time frame, of
Pac-Man.
course. They missed Pac Man, of course. There was a kind of an obscure game that not many people remember. It's called Mega Mania. Did you ever play
Yeah,
Mega Mania? Okay, see, not many people remember that one when I bring it
I
up.
did play it. I did not own it.
They're like, "Well, I didn't own it either." It was at my friend's house. They had Mega Mania. I had quite a few cartridges for the 2600, but my mom wouldn't buy them all the time. So
Now let me ask you, how did you store them? Did you store them in a shoebox?
oh man, I in a shoebox, left out in the open, sometimes flung under the bed because I didn't want to pick up the room. I kicked it under the bed.
Fair, fair.
I mean,
But when
who
they were
knew?
put away, it was usually in a shoebox, right?
Yeah, right. Somewhere to because well, we thought we were smart stuff. That's very creative. What else were you using a shoebox for? You didn't put your shoes back in it. I
No.
mean,
You used it for dioramas for school. That was
I
about it.
used it for dioramas for school. I kept baseball cards in one. I kept comics in another one. Shoe boxes were, like the milk crates for kids, milk crates for college students. They make everything with those, right?
Yep.
They had chairs, tables. They're making furniture. Here we are making storage out of shoe boxes. So, uh,
I
the
still keep
cloak,
my shoe boxes. I have like 20, probably 20 shoe boxes sitting out in my garage.
because we know we're gonna use it for something when we're stubborn. We're gonna put something in it and we won't throw it away. That's what it is.
And you want to hear the funny thing? I used them this week. I had a mouse invasion in my kitchen. They didn't get to certain drawers. I broke out the shoe boxes, took everything out of those drawers, and put them in the shoe boxes.
There you go. See, you
Those
never
shoe boxes
know.
have lids.
It's just like the junk drawer. Every man has a junk drawer that's got cables in it of all kinds, wiring rolled up into a little thing and tied off where you never know if you need that speaker wire later. You might need that
Right.
speaker wire.
Even though you
Not
don't know how to
anymore.
rig it up, you
I
might need
mean,
it.
Not so much anymore because we don't have those kind of stereos and stuff around the house any longer. But back then, you'd keep speaker wire. You would keep, and then when it started getting to computers, USB cables of all kinds. Uh, then it was HDMI cords. All right. At some point, I even had switches. I was keeping switches in case people needed, like if I needed or somebody I knew needed one. And I remember when I was married at the time, my wife was like, you got to get rid of the drawer finally. Come on, let's be real. How many cables have you given out in the last 2 years? I said, well, it's not the amount of
If
cables
it
I've
was
given out.
one, that was enough.
Right. It's not the
Yes.
amount of cables I've given out. It's the fact that I have it if someone needs it. Sure enough, 2 weeks after I throw all that stuff away, someone comes to me for a HDMI cable because they knew I had 6 of them in the drawer.
Yep.
And I said, sorry, talk to her.
Yeah. The AV cable is the greatest. I mean, you keep that even though nothing runs on AV anymore.
RCA cables,
Yeah.
the red, white, and yellow ones.
That's right.
Yeah, tons of that stuff, man. It's crazy.
And as soon as I got rid of mine, my dad needed to borrow one. I was like,
Right.
I got nothing for you.
Right. And it's something else about, so I brought up Mega Mania a while ago as being my favorite. Mega Mania and Pitfall were probably two of my more
Oh, yeah.
advanced, like I
I
say advanced. It's not really an advanced game. It's just different than the rest of them was
Damn crocodile.
because of what you had to do. Jump on the crocodiles, swing across the tar pits, collect the gold and everything. Uh, but Mega Mania was different because it was different things on the screen, and it's either things that are floating across the top, straight across, and you have to just hit them all, shoot them from the bottom of the screen till they all disappear, or they're moving down and up. And then you face the final board. I think it was the final board is asteroids, and they're coming down the screen at you. So you're having to navigate to avoid being crashing into one of these
Marshed.
and shooting and destroying them along the way and clear everything out. Similar to asteroids in a way. So least favorite Atari game? If it's
Least
not
favorite
hey,
Atari game.
if it's not ET, I don't know what's wrong with you because that was the worst ever game made for Atari.
Well, I don't know if that's my least favorite. Trying to think of what my least favorite was. It's hard to
I
think
mean,
because the ones that I didn't like, I don't remember at all.
they had some good ones. They had Berserk. They had Yar's Revenge. Centipede come out eventually. Uh, man,
I had ET. I will admit, I
Sir,
played
there
ET
was
many,
Circus
many
Atari.
times.
Do you remember Circus Atari?
Oh yes.
Yeah, Circus. That was one of the games you played with the little dial paddles or whatever,
The
like you
little,
played
yep.
Berserker, not Berserker. I'm sorry, Breakout with.
Uh-huh.
So
They were the paddles. They called them paddles.
right,
And they were just a spinner on a thing you held in your hand that had one
Oh, it
button, one
was.
red
It
button.
just held it, and you just took your hand like this, and then you're just twisting it
Spinning
like
it. Yeah.
this. You twist it to go to the left, you twist it to go to the right. Circus Atari was the silliest game ever. There's balloons all across the top of the screen, and you got these clowns that jump on these teeter totters, and it launches the other one into the air, and you slide over to catch him on the teeter totter. He launches the other one in the air, and then
And
you
you
can
missed
get
the clown
you
and
can
he
get
crashed to the ground.
oh he
Crunch.
splatted. He splatted. But you can also get fancy and click a button and it switches the teeter totter around. If you can't go fast enough to get him over there, you can flip it around and catch him. If you were fancy with it.
Our games were a little different.
Yeah, look, nowadays you've got compare an Atari 2600 game to something as detailed as World of Warcraft.
Yeah, but
I mean,
even in the simplicity of it, the violence I think was even more.
Yeah. Right.
Everything was violence. There was nothing that wasn't violence in the original games like that. So
No, you're right.
everything was about killing or destroying.
And did we grow up to be serial killers? No, we did not.
Well, I'm sure some of us did.
Yeah. But was it the game that made them do it, or was it the voices in their head?
Well, that could be. Well, there's a trick there because the voices could have been implanted by the game.
I tell you what we'll do. To figure out what a psycho is thinking, you must talk to a psycho. So we'll holler at Brian later and we'll ask him what's up on it.
I was just thinking the same thing. That's really. I was about to say. I think we both know one, but we'll have to cover that on the 3-Cousins episode.
Right.
Are you a psycho?
Tune in to the 3-Cousins when they talk to Brian about being a psycho. Don't think they won't do it.
No, I don't think he's a murderous type of psycho. I think he's just a
Uh,
little crazy because he's a NHL maniac.
yes, yeah, I mean when you're a hockey maniac like that, violence is a way of life.
That is true.
So it's okay though. We still like him.
Oh
We
yeah,
still like him.
I
He's
still
not.
love him. He is my cousin. He is family. So
I mean, he's not my cousin, but I still like him. No, he's a cool guy. Yeah.
he's
Not
fun.
very funny, but I mean, he's a cool guy though.
Oh, ouch! Wow, wow, that's a low blow, man. That's a
Oh my
low blow.
gosh, Brian, if you're watching or if you're listening, I'm
He
just
said you're
playing.
not funny.
I'm just playing around. It's cool. It's cool. You're hilarious, dude. Don't care what he
He's
says.
funny. He actually does some good stand up.
$20 is $20.
That's right.
That's
No,
right.
Brian does some good stand up if you can catch him at it. So
Yeah, no, I'm sure he does. I like to pick on him though. Uh, that elderly couple, back to the movie. We were
yes,
talking about them earlier, played by John McIntyre and Jeanette Nolan. They were actually married in real life, and
right.
they were married for 56 years until his death in 1991. So
Well, and he was in like every Navy movie, every Western. I mean, he was
yeah,
in everything that could be black and white. And
right.
then wasn't he a judge in something? Hold on, let me look.
That's what I'm saying. I'll pull it up and look and see if I can
Turner
find
and
that.
Hooch. He was a judge in Turner and Hooch, I think,
Turner and Hooch. Okay,
or something
we're
like that.
seeing. Yeah, he's a Turner and Hooch, played Amos Reed. He was also in. Well, that was 1960. He was in Psycho. The sheriff Al Chambers in Psycho in 1960.
Yeah,
He
I
did
mean,
some.
so
He
he had a
did
huge career.
some voiceover work in The Rescuers. Played Rufus.
What a great movie
So
that was.
he's done a lot of stuff. Um, and then of course I didn't even think to check on her. Let's see if she did anything or if she's known for anything.
She
Um,
did, but I don't remember what. Is that terrible?
well, she was known for The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance in '62, The Fox and the Hound. She did a voiceover too in '81 in The Fox and the Hound. She was the Widow Tweed. She was in The Rescuers also as LMA, the voice of LMA. The Big Heat from '53. So like him, she's been in a lot of older stuff. She was in a episode of MacGyver.
I now remember where I saw her. She was the grandma in the Horse Whisperer.
The Grandma and the
And
Horse
that was
Whisperer. Okay.
my wife's favorite movie. And so it was on all the time. And
Yeah.
yes, she was the grandma in the Horse Whisperer. That's why she looked familiar when I watched the movie again.
I've never seen it, but that's a Robert Redford movie, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where he comes to help the girl that had a bad accident with her horse, and the horse and her are both basically broken mentally.
Yeah.
And he brings them back together.
So a lot of this was filmed in San Antonio, where
Yeah.
they were talked about because they hinted at being there because the Alamo, but the Alamo tour scene was recreated in a Universal Sound studio because the natives regard the church as a shrine. So due to this, films have rarely featured actual Alamo footage. It says, however, Cloak and Dagger is one rare film that featured actual footage of the Alamo entrance at Alamo East Plaza, especially driving up to the church doors. 10 years after the film's debut, the road was permanently closed to traffic. So not much of it wasn't actually the Alamo they were in. That was recreated in. I didn't know that. I thought they were actually in the Alamo.
Well, they did do a whole bunch of filming on the San Antonio Riverwalk, which
Yeah.
is really a neat thing to go on.
I've never been there, but I've heard it's a cool place to visit.
It is, and it's worth taking the tour that Daryl went on in the movie, and was stalked on.
And speaking of filming, the shop that they would go into where Morris worked, the gamekeeper, it's an actual shop located in the Glendale Galleria, so a few miles from Universal Studios. So
Interesting.
I guess
It did look like a mall.
yeah, definitely did. Since the time of the film, though, it's relocated to a smaller store space within the mall. Sells mainly mainstream board games. It's not as big as it was before. Dabney Coleman did not get along with the director Richard Franklin. Richard Franklin's done some stuff though. Now I'm not saying that I don't know why they couldn't get along together, but Richard Franklin he directed Psycho 2, he directed FX 2 for a couple of the movies, just to throw out there. What got me was the writer of the film, Tom Holland.
Yes.
Are you now not to be confused with Spider-Man in the Marvel universe? Not that Tom Holland, but he wrote Fright Night, Child's Play, and other horror films.
He wrote a whole bunch of stuff. And this leads into one thing I wanted to talk about. I'm
Hmm.
glad you brought this up. Um, I was watching the movie, and it's a thriller. It's a Cloak and Dagger movie. It's a spy movie.
Right.
No, it's not. When you get to the scene where they've shown up at his house and he's alone in his house, and they knock on the door and you see the shadow of the person underneath the door, and then the ball comes through the window with his name written on it. That's when I realized this was actually a horror movie for children.
Pretty much. Each child be at home by themselves now is thinking, who's going to come through my window and come after me?
Well,
Yeah.
but it was, and once I looked at it that way, a lot of the way things were filmed were very much from the horror genre, not necessarily the spy thriller genre. And it was like, this is a horror movie for children. No wonder I was traumatized by the Riverwalk scene at the end.
Oh, at the end, yeah, that's where, yeah, where he
Where he's
draws.
got to pull in his sneakers so it doesn't give him away right before the guy looks at him and then shoots a rat. I'm telling you, it was, if you think about it, it's a horror movie in its very nature.
Well, let me tell you how they describe the movie. You're talking about a horror movie for children, right? Which you could
Yeah.
look at it, definitely look at it that way, because kids watching it would get scared at some things. Some of the I did like a breakdown of the movie here, and it'll tell you the themes and the symbolism of the movie, things you'll see in it. Uh, Loss of innocence, obviously. Davey starts off seeing the world as a game, quickly realizes that real life has consequences because people are getting killed over this stuff.
Hmm.
And he almost, lost his life himself a couple different times. Kim almost, got abducted and could have been killed or anything from there. It turns real life. The father son relationship part of it. Uh, the dad seems to not have a lot of time for him. His father's name was Hal. Struggles to connect with his son, but by the end of the movie, they develop a stronger bond because his father is the one that comes out to the plane to save him.
Right. And I actually had something to talk about, but I'll bring that up later.
But as soon as I'm gonna tell you one more thing that it got listed, then you bring that up. You go ahead and tell me what you want to. But fantasy versus reality obviously is a part of it because he's fantasizing Jack Flack being there with him the whole way, step by step, his imaginary spy hero,
Mhm.
which by the way, like we mentioned, played by his father. In his mind, that's his father. His father, he wants his
His
father
father
to be
needs
his
to be.
to be the hero.
Yeah. His father needs to
So
be the hero. His father is an Air Force master sergeant, I believe.
right.
So, I mean, he is in the military. He
Hmm.
is actually not a nobody. It's what he wished his father would be. Now, I'm
Right.
going to throw this back at you because was it real or was it just a game that Morris was running where instead of Jack Flack, the kid was playing himself?
Hmm.
And that's the ending that he would hope for in a game where it was all about him.
Well, I mean, Davey did ask for something real,
So
right?
I'm just throwing that one out there. I'm not saying that's what it was,
Right.
but it could all have just been a game run by Morris.
Until Morris got killed.
Well, but I will be honest. I've run a game where I've killed myself in the game when people wanted to play themselves in a setting,
Yeah, but you were
and
still
I've
playing the
died in
game.
that setting.
Morris really got killed though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it
So
was a wonderful shot and perfect dead center into the monitor as well.
yeah, yeah. Let's see here. A little behind the scenes trivia if
Well,
anything
so
good
I
pops
want to
up.
let me bring this one up.
Yeah.
This movie at the end had one of the best cinematography pieces I have ever seen in a movie, and it's
With his
very easy to miss.
with his father coming out of the fire from the
Coming out of the
plane.
fireball,
Yeah.
and each time you cut back to him, the first time you see the shadow, it's Jack Flack, and
Right.
then it goes back to Davy, and then it goes back to the shadow, but this time the shadow doesn't have the beret on.
Hmm.
And then it goes back to Davy, and then it goes back to the shadow, and it's his father's outline without the uniform of Jack Flack, and it's his father's Air Force uniform, and then he comes out of the darkness suddenly in full Technicolor, and
Yeah.
I think that shadow transformation is very easy to miss.
I thought it was cool. It was very cool though.
I mean,
Easy to
just
miss, like you're saying, but very cool.
Yeah, I mean, just the foresight to make that work is just amazing. And whether it was the writer or the director that came up with it, it was amazing. And it really did it, it solidified the my dad is Jack Flack in Davey's mind when he watched
Mhm.
the transformation.
Yeah, exactly. That's him. I think that's the where it mentioned earlier about the fantasy versus reality. The
Hmm.
reality is now setting into him that Jack Flack's a thing of his imagination, and that's cool. But this is your real hero coming to you now, and then just as he wanted, it's his father stepping through out of the shadows and being that hero, which is really cool.
Yeah.
So.
In no reality, you thought his father died
Well, and
right
it was
before
it
that
was very
happened.
possible, and I remember even as a kid thinking to myself, he already lost his mother, so surely he didn't lose his father in this plane blowing up like it did. Surely he got out of the window like Davy did.
Well, it's
But
worse. He lost his mother before the movie, and he's
Mhm.
having trouble connecting with his father. His father, you could tell, was completely destroyed by the mother's death,
Yeah,
but he was holding it together. You could kind of see that in the way uh, Dabney Coleman acted the character out. But then he lost Jack in a violent, horrifying way. And Jack didn't even say goodbye. Jack tricked him to
hmm
go, hey, go get my smokes. I dropped him over there and then vanished, gone. And then all of a sudden, his father comes to save him and he's gone. I mean, can you imagine the trauma that kid was going through before his dad walked out of the fireball? And the real question is, did his dad actually walk out of the fireball or was that all in his mind?
it could be. You mentioned him playing a game earlier. What if this,
Yeah.
like you said, this he was the game master, and this is how it worked out in his mind and played out. They don't really tell you that or anything in the movie. They lead you to believe that this is real, and then yeah, his dad made it out of the plane. But hey, it's fun to throw it out there though,
Yeah. Yeah.
because once again, blurring the lines of reality and fantasy, and maybe leaving you wondering. If they had done maybe a little bit better job of that, it would have been probably a better grossing movie than what it was or something.
That's true. But I mean, it was also facing off against things like Daryl. And Daryl was the movie to see at that
Yeah,
time. So
Daryl. We will be doing Daryl soon. I got to do
Daryl was
that
an
one.
incredible movie.
I love that movie, and for those of you wondering why they name a movie after the kid in the movie, it's not that. Daryl is an acronym. It's there's a period after every letter, so it's DARYL, which is Data Analyzing Robot Youth Life Form. Daryl is a robot. He's
It was
not
Short
real.
Circuit before Short Circuit.
Yeah. Short circuit in a human body, though. I
Yeah.
mean, so something implanted in his brain. Is that what it was?
I think it's been a long time since I've seen the movie, but
Yeah,
I
I
believe
can't.
it was no, he was completely mechanical.
Was he completely
Yeah, he was completely mechanical.
okay? I
If I
can't
remember
remember. It's
correctly.
been so long.
We'll have to
I
watch it
have
and
it.
then review it, I guess.
I have it on a VHS tape in my closet. Back when the day when you used to take and record movies onto you'd make it go. You had the option 2, 4, 6, or 8 hours sometimes, but on the average 2, 4 to 6 hours is what you could record on one VHS tape. I've still got it on one of those tapes in my closet right now. Daryl and two other movies on there.
I actually have a bought version of Daryl on video
Mm.
on a VHS. Have no VHS player to
I
watch it on.
see that's my problem. I've got a bunch. I bought a tote full of VHS tapes for $5. I couldn't pass that up. $5 just for the collector value alone, if anything, right? I could always sell these things and make 10 times the money I paid for it, if not more. But I
You
don't
need
want to.
you
I
need
have
Tom Holland's Spider-Man to find you a VCR in the trash and fix
I
it for you.
have a VCR under my bed, but it does not play well. And I all it really needs, I thought, was just to get the heads cleaned on it. And I've gone in and done that, and nothing has worked for it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it could also be the age of the VHS tapes because tape doesn't last forever, especially if
No.
it's been in a bad environment with heat and cold.
Well, not to mention how many times did you watch the movie?
Oh yeah.
Because I wore some tapes out back in my day, no doubt.
So if I could jump back to the 70s real
Yeah.
quick. the one thing that we wore out more than anything else was the Star Wars LP.
Yeah.
We wore that out. We went through like 7 or 8 of them because it played nonstop in our house for like 2 years. And, once you have used a record or a VHS long enough, for those of you that didn't own them, they degraded because they were actually bumps and magnetic signals on the tapes. And if the bump got leveled out, you didn't get any good sound. And if the magnetic tape took damage, like it got caught in the machine and you had to get it out and rewind it,
Oh man, how many
uh,
times did that happen? Open
and
the
then
back of the VHS tape up and take something to wind the tape back up in there. And sometimes you damage it to the point to where if you wanted to rescue it at all, you had to cut out a piece of your movie. You had to pull the tape back out to where it wasn't damaged and snip it at the parts where it wasn't and put it together carefully with a little piece of scotch tape to hold it.
they actually sold the little splicing machine that you
Yeah.
used to use for 8 millimeter tape videos for VHS tapes and for cassettes. So you could actually get the actual splicing machine with the 2 little blades. And
Yes.
yeah,
And since we're throwing these old things out there just for the reminiscing of it here, I've told you guys on your show this before as well. Not only was I a part of that VHS deal, before VHS, we had video disc players.
oh yes,
Now, some people confuse that with laser disc. This is not laser disc was similar, but laser disc is like saying DVD to VHS. That's what
yep.
basically you say Laserdisc was a lot sharper than the VHS was when it came out. Plus, um, I'm comparing that wrong. Laserdisc and VHS equivalent to like CD-ROM versus floppy disk.
Yes, or actually, even still, you could say just normal, normal Blu-ray versus normal normal
DVD versus
DVD.
regular
Yeah, I
DVD.
mean the difference was night and day.
And video disc players, what they were was you would go to the store, you would rent them, or you could buy them. It would look like a big LP album, the big ones. Uh, but instead, you took it and you pushed it into your video disc player and then you pulled it back out. It would take the disc out from inside and play it. The
So you
funny
could never
thing, the
touch the
unique,
disc.
right, you never touched the disc. The unique thing about these, though, were you got half the movie and you had to stop and put the disc back, the cover back in, pull the disc out, flip it over, put it back in, just like an LP when you had to turn the LP over to play the B side of the LP. All right, you'd flip it over, put it back in, and you get your second half of the movie. There were quite a few movies I used to rent like that back in the day where I only watched the back side of the movie because I knew right where it started, and that's when the good stuff was happening.
That's funny.
Primarily Rocky 3
Yeah,
because
well, I mean that's the best part
the
of Rocky 3 is the second half of the
yeah,
movie. First half drags.
the back side of it is the beginning of the training with him and Apollo Creed.
Yeah,
That's where the
Clubber
training first
Lang,
started. So
Mr. T. Mm.
right. Right. So it's cool.
So,
So winding this thing up, what was your favorite part of
can
the
I do
movie if
one
you
more
hadn't?
one more melting of
Yeah.
LPs for you? This one
Yeah.
actually is 80s.
Yeah.
The other record LP that we melted many times was Silverado,
Oh yeah.
because it had an amazing score that if you've never heard it, you need to go listen to it. I mean, you could just imagine the wide open plains of Montana full of cows and horses and cowboys.
The 80s in general movies so where they're loaded and packed with great soundtracks,
Yes.
scores, regular music and songs, whatever you want to however you want to look at it. It's packed and loaded with great stuff and you don't really get a lot of that anymore. Not a lot. The closest thing I can tell you that I've listened to as a soundtrack, and it was just to get that because the music was relaxing to me, was music from Lord of the Rings.
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
Well,
I'll
that
tell
had
you
a lot
another,
of, to be honest, the Lord of the Rings trilogy had a big 80s feel to it anyway.
yeah, and I'll give you another funny one. It's not a movie, but they have the music from the game on available to listen to, and to me, a couple of them are very relaxing to me because it took me back to when I first started playing the game,
Mhm.
and it's World of Warcraft.
Yes, the
Um,
World of Warcraft. music is amazing.
Yeah.
And they've had so many different additions to it. But yeah, the beginning ones,
Hmm.
or even if you listen to the original, what was before World of Warcraft was Warcraft.
Right.
A lot of the music in Warcraft was the best part of the game because the game was, I love it, but it was terrible.
Yeah, it wasn't very good. Not to the and I didn't play regular Warcraft up to Warcraft 3 or anything. After Warcraft 3, they came out with World of Warcraft, and I still didn't play it then.
It was awful.
Um, I didn't pick up on it till their third installment of the game, World of Warcraft,
Hmm.
and that's when I picked up on it around 2007. Now I will still pick it up and play even to this day. Uh, Anything from the classic version, which I'm talking about now, to the newer stuff, but I'm few and far between playing those. It's not. I just don't have time.
Was that the version where they added the Blood Elves?
The Blood Elves were added
Inari?
in. They were added, I believe, in Burning Crusade, the second
Yes,
one.
Burning Crusades.
I believe they were both added in the second one there.
You're right. The Burning Crusades was the second one.
Or the Blood Elves were definitely added in the second one for sure. The Draenei may have been added in the third installment, Lich King. I'm not sure.
The Blood Elves music was very deceiving
Yeah.
in how vicious they were. So
Well,
anyway,
one of my favorites is the opening zone as a human
yes,
in the forest there.
yes.
That's cool. And then going into Stormwind the first time,
Hmm.
where they got
Yeah,
stuff going for that.
that music was amazing. The Orc music wasn't as good. The Horde music
No,
wasn't as good.
I don't know why people love the Horde so much. Like, maybe it's because it's the bad guy.
I
You're playing
liked
the
playing
bad
both
guy.
sides.
I play both sides, but I mean, I always like the Alliance side better. And I don't know if it's because there's that hero complex people have, or when it comes to games, people always ask me, why would you play a human? Why wouldn't you play something that's not human? Just for the difference. And I said, well, I've got human characters. I've got elf, the night elves. I got blood elves. I got Draenei. I've got dwarfs. The only ones I don't like playing are the little gnomes. They're annoying as all
They
get
are
out.
annoying.
But the game, if you guys aren't familiar with the game, is it's really cool the way they advanced over the years. And if they ever put the Unreal Engine in World of Warcraft and do the graphics that way, I people will never quit playing that game. Probably.
I can only being that I work in a coding environment. I can't even imagine the code that they would have to modify in World of Warcraft, as gigantic as it is, to get it to the Unreal
Have
5.
Have you
I don't know
ever
how they do
seen
it.
Have you ever seen what it would look like? Somebody has done this already to give you the idea of what it would look like from the game versus an Unreal Engine game. They've done this, and it looks super cool. But to make it play that way
That's
all
the
the
hard
time,
part.
yes, you can make Goldshire and look in the Unreal Engine, and it looks real nice. It's awesome.
Yeah. But
But
it's all the background code that makes everything work. That's the hard part.
yes, yes, and I'm like, it would be awesome, but I don't know that they could ever be done. But anyway,
So
so
I got one more thing for you from Cloak and Dagger.
what you got for me?
So, for those of you who didn't grow up in the 70s and early 80s, you didn't really understand how these two children are allowed to run all over the city
Oh
by
yes,
themselves with bus passes and
yes.
nobody even batted an eye. That
Hmm.
is the way Generation X grew up. And you Generation Xers, I know you're sitting there nodding with me.
Hmm.
We wandered all over the place by ourselves.
As long as you come home by the time them street lights were on, you were cool.
That's right.
Rode my
And or
bicycle
if you were
all
able to
across
call from a
town.
payphone to your friend's house,
Yep.
then you were okay. But there's no answering machines. So if you don't get them, you better race your butt home.
Yeah, yeah. I rode my bicycle. I used to say if my mom knew where all I rode my bicycle to, she probably had a fit. But she never questioned anything. Yeah, all she would question is, "Did you have fun today?" Like,
Yeah, I remember
absolutely.
taking the metro into DC from Northern Virginia alone when I was like 11 and just running around Crystal City and then downtown DC and getting back on the metro and coming home.
Some people say there was no worry back then because there wasn't as many creeps as we got today out
Oh, no,
there.
we had more creeps.
But the thing is, I always tell them, I was like, no, I think the creeps were all out there still just the same. You just didn't have internet and cell phones with cameras on 'em to show everything that was going on in the world.
And I will be honest, Gen X kids were pretty imaginative in getting the hell out of situations. We had
Yeah.
the as Bill Cosby said, we left the movie and our toes became 10-foot radar systems. Boop, 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 boop. We always had those buzzers up and ready, and if something felt wrong, you left.
Yeah.
I don't think kids nowadays, a lot of kids just they don't comprehend if it doesn't feel right, get the hell out. Excuse
No,
my
they get
language,
that
but
they they get that stupid horror movie mentality that you see all the white people in the
let's
movie
hide
and
behind
horror
the wall of
movies have.
chainsaws.
Right. Well, hey, what's that brutal screaming going on over there? Let's go check it out and see. You'd also call it Scooby Doo syndrome.
Yes.
Because Fred and Velma were the stupid ones that wanted to go see what was going on, while Scooby and Shaggy wanted to go hide in the van.
Most 80s kids were Scooby and Shaggy, I'll be honest.
Yes.
Or
Yes.
Daphne, but
We weren't checking out the danger. We weren't going into the woods. We
well, no,
wasn't
we would
running.
go into the
Hey,
woods.
but what I'm saying is we weren't going toward the noise in the woods. If we
Well, you
hear
did if there
something
were
going
enough of
on,
you.
you do it. Yeah, but when you're by yourself, you
Oh
wouldn't
no,
know.
by
Would you?
yourself? No. But
That's
if
what
there
I'm
were like
saying.
7 or 8 of you, oh yeah, let's go.
If you
Let's
hear
go find
some,
that troll.
you hear some things, it's like some little limbs breaking and cracking, like something big is walking in there, and you're staring at it, and you just stop, and your hairs on your arms stand up, and you just chill down the back of your spine. You're waiting for something to pop out, and all of a sudden you hear something snap again. You take off real quick on your bicycle or running or whatever you can. Now, if your buddies are with you, there's a bunch like it's like it's all stand by me. Like at that point, right? You're
Well,
like,
yeah,
no, I got to check this out. Let's see what that noise is back here. There's 4 of us. Come on.
but when the first person ran, everybody ran.
Right. That is true. That is very
I don't know if
true.
it's true for the girls, but the boys, as soon as the first guy bolted, everybody bolted because they
I,
didn't want to
I,
be the last one stuck there.
I don't think the girls gave it a chance. They just took off. They didn't bother. Stupid boys, go over there and look at it if you want to. We're going where the safety is over here.
We're going back to the playground. Bye.
That's right. Monkey bars are calling.
Monkey bars and metal slides.
That burnt your back when you slid down them.
Oh yeah. I left flesh behind. It'll be
Whose idea was it to make
lubricated for the next person.
Whose idea was it to make these metal bars in different shapes and sizes for us to climb and swing on?
I think
Whose
it was
idea was
Darwinism.
that? I mean, come on.
I'm telling you, I think it was Darwinism. They were trying to weed out the weak.
That's what the playgrounds were like then.
Yeah.
But swing till you got so high, then you would jump off at the height of the swing. Unless you were one of the idiots that wanted to go so high that you would go over and wrap the chain around once.
Yeah.
The others who would run up the slide the wrong way, then turn around. Or my favorite, the ones that climbed up the right way, grabbed the little bar at the top and swung out and landed on their butt halfway down the slide and slid the rest of the way. How'd you know you were going to land on the slide? What if you didn't land on the slide?
If you didn't land on the slide, you were in pain, and you land on the slide the next time.
The little merry-go-round. There's nothing merry about it. You go around all right, and people would sit you going at like 45 miles an hour. You're barely hanging on. It's like the gravitron with no walls in there to hold you in. Yep. You go flying off in all different directions, right?
But that was part of the fun.
Part of the fun, again, yes.
These kids in this movie were running all over downtown San Antonio on their bus passes. I mean, Kim went to the airport by herself at night, and nobody cared.
And so did he. So did the kid. He was going to save Kim because she had a bomb in her radio, right?
He didn't. Right. We didn't cover that part, but yeah.
A stranger driving the taxi takes the kid across town
to the airport. Yeah.
No fear. Why is an adult person dropping a kid off at the airport?
Well, and he's got a torn up leg because he fell and tore open his knee. Worse than I've ever seen anybody tear open their knee when they fall down.
Yes.
He wanted to take him to the hospital. Kid's like, no, I need to go to the airport. All right, fine, get in. I'll take you to the airport. I was going that way anyway.
It's your knee. Come on.
It's a different world, my friend. Different world.
It's a very different world. I know all the younger kids all laugh at us and tell us we're just old and stupid, but you know what? We still lived in the best era, though. So, as much as I'm touting it because this is my podcast, right? A retro podcast. Regardless of what I do on this podcast, the times we had growing up in the era we grew up was still the best because we didn't have to rely on some things, and we did things that everybody now says is too dangerous to do, and we live to tell it pretty easily.
That's right.
So,
Seat belts in cars were a newfangled thing.
right.
Nobody used seat belts. Why are
Not
you using a seat belt?
not tying myself to this seat. Who you kidding? I can't crawl across the seat. And it's not that. I want to be in the back of the truck. I want to be in the truck bed. And
I want
sometimes
to
I
be
wanted to
standing
stand
behind
up.
the driver. I want to be standing
That's what I'm
between the
saying.
driver and the
Sometimes I
passenger.
wanted to stand up and look over the top as we're going down the road.
I'm going to go out the back window of the truck into the bed. And I'm
Right.
coming back in.
There's another one.
Sleeping. I think it was George Carlin who talked about sleeping in the under the glass on the back window of the car
Yeah. Yep.
in the summer sun. So yeah,
Right. Kids being up there if they were small enough to get up there. Sure enough. Or in the station wagon in the back, looking at the people behind them, making faces at them.
yeah, with the backward facing seats, those were
Yes.
awesome. Just waving at everybody,
People behind the car didn't think it was awesome most of the time.
depending on what you were doing.
I guess. I don't know. There's only so many funny faces they wanted to see before they were tired of seeing
Yeah, but I
that.
think that was the best invention for parents to keep kids busy on long trips. Was that
Probably.
backward facing seat?
Probably. Aggravate the people behind you. Make the trip worthwhile. Did you have a favorite part of the movie? A favorite scene? Anything?
Um, favorite scene of the movie. I will have to say,
Or
I think it was the shadow in the fireball.
yeah. The way it ended up like that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna make mine a little more on the little bit of a lighter side, I guess, in a sense. When he's going to get Kim and turn the game cartridge over. Uh Earlier in the film, he was loading his gun. She says, "What are you doing?" He says, "Jack Flack says always have your gun loaded."
That's
And
right.
I'm like, is he putting ink in there? Is that what that is? One of them ink shooting guns? So sure enough, it's what it is. And he's got the looks like the guy is gonna double cross him. And he pulls the gun out, and the guy don't think at first. He's thinking, is it a real gun? Oh, it's a kid. It can't be a real gun. And he goes, he shoots him in the eyes with the ink and blinds him when they take off running and
Right.
everything.
Well, actually,
Oh,
I think the bottle said fake blood
was that what it
when he
was?
loaded it up. So,
Okay.
which could have
It
been
could
an ink.
be. It could be because it was red. So
Yeah.
I mean, that's possible.
So,
But I mean, he shot him in the eye when they got away and everything. And it's like what you were saying earlier about kids being a little bit more, I guess, in tune with the danger aspect and knowing what they got to do, and then running.
well, but later he actually used a real gun and shot the same guy to death. So this
But
is something I forgot to explain is that, is this all a game and not real? Because he saw someone die. He really didn't react to it like a person would seeing somebody die. He shot someone and killed them and didn't react like a person that had shot and killed a person. So,
well, now he did get kind of mad though at Jack at that part though, because he told him you gotta draw the fire toward the enemy. He runs toward the other guy, and the other guy turns around and shoots, but as Davey gets out of the way, he's able to shoot his partner
right,
and killing him. So he sees him dead. Now he's mad because Jack tricked him into that. And then Jack tricks him into shooting the other guy by looking like, he got shot up because Davey yells out, "No, Jack, don't," or something. The guy turns around and just starts shooting. No one's
right.
there,
Well, the guy
but he
was going to
shoots anyway.
kill Davey anyway, but
Right.
Davey was really self defense.
But he didn't really want to shoot him though.
No,
You could tell that, and he shoots him anyway when he gets mad about it. So I mean, there is some there is some remorse and stuff where he knows, what happened was probably wrong all around, and it's real.
right,
But yeah, I know what you're saying about he saw the doctor get shot and killed, and it didn't phase him.
right.
That was
And he knew
different,
Morris was dead, and it didn't phase him.
right?
But of course, it was after he shot the guy when Jack tricked him is when he said, "I don't want to play anymore."
How many kids you can see wake up in a trunk next to a dead body with a bullet in their
Oh,
head
and
and
not freaking out. Come
not
on.
freak out? Right?
I mean, yeah. I mean, so I
But it is
kind
a
of lean
movie,
more that it was all in a game, but
right? Like we said time and time again about some of these movies, it's for the movie.
oh
It's
yeah,
all about being for the movie. So it's all for more fun than that. So it's all good. It's not if we want realism, we'll just go outside and walk the streets of whatever big city we're close to. You want reality.
no, I think I'll stay home.
Yeah, I don't want to walk
I
down
don't want that kind
Nashville.
of realism in my life. People shooting each other.
No. 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 I will pass on that. Only reality I want is my butt in the seat of a football game somewhere or a baseball game, and I'll be happy.
There you go.
So, all right, well, it's Sheldon. It's been a blast, man. We definitely covered this movie pretty well. I all in all, at the end, I'm just gonna say that I highly recommend it to anybody that wants to watch it. It still, to me, it still kind of stands up today, to where if they were to remake this film, they could make something good out of it.
I think they
Um,
could. I think they could.
there's not many you can say sometimes when it comes to '80s that they could really remake it and make it good and believable or anything. But
But they would
I
have to follow the same, I would say, dark horror esque methodology, or it would lose its real gut punch.
right, right, but it can be done. I'm
Oh,
sure. I'm
absolutely.
sure it can be done. Um, so I look forward to doing Daryl though. Is that the now? Will that be the next one you come on with? Is doing Daryl? Do you want to do Daryl?
I'm more than happy to come on
I
and do Daryl or any other movie you want.
Yeah. So we'll do Daryl here soon, maybe in a couple of weeks or something, and get that ready to go, and that'll be fun. That was always a really good movie. So I well, it's go ahead if you will one more last time, plug the show again, get it out there so we can, and we'll go ahead and wrap up with ours here.
Sure, absolutely. You can catch me on Three Dash Cousins. That's 3-cousins.com with my cousins Tiv and Brian, which you've heard on the show before, and then also rigstories.com. And I'm on a couple of different shows there.
All right, cool. Uh, now, you guys, 3-cousins.com. I do believe you're on the Facebook, right?
We are on the Facebook.
The,
From the website, you can click the Facebook link and it'll take you there.
now, is Facebook the only thing you guys are on, or do you have like X or YouTube or?
We do have an Instagram account. We've talked about doing a YouTube, but most of the stuff we say YouTube would probably ban us for, because it's not a family friendly show.
You probably wouldn't be monetized.
We
It's
wouldn't be
probably what.
monetized. I'd be surprised if they even let our show air. They tend to frown upon some of the topics that are discussed, like poop knives. But theoretically, we're going to get a Twitter account at some point.
Yeah. All right, then. Well, if you guys are new to the show watching us today, make sure you do pick up and follow us. We're on Facebook. We are on Instagram at Retro Life for You. And that is the number 4YOU, as far as finding us out there. Our website, you can listen to us directly from the browser. And if everything goes smoothly, like it does not always do, you can watch the video in the show notes.
Hey, you didn't tell me
From
we
the
were going to be showing a video. Wait a
Oh
minute.
yes, your own video, sir. It's like candid camera.
I look like
Uh,
crap. Okay,
I
well
mean,
that's normal
I
actually.
don't look much better. So I
That's
mean,
normal.
this is why I tell everybody I have a face made for radio. I mean, come on, that's but anyway, and speaking of video, YouTube, we're on YouTube. Yes, we are on the YouTube. You can catch the majority. Well, you can catch all of our new stuff on YouTube for sure. I still have a bunch of episodes I have not uploaded. I've got about 72 or 73 videos uploaded out of 124, 125, somewhere in there. It's just not having any darn time to do this stuff with. I mean, if this was something I was paid full time to do, I'd gladly have everything up there, and that's all I'd be working on is this. But you know how it is, trying to get time put together, and then I'm when you got the different editings and stuff you have to do and everything. So anyway, Spotify and iTunes are the two main places that we usually promote out there, but you can find us anywhere that you get your podcast at. I believe we're on iHeartRadio still and Amazon Music and all that good stuff. So, um, anyway, let us know if you have any questions. Actually, if you like the show and you have any questions or suggestions for anything else that we do, retrolife4you at gmail.com is where you can reach us at on the email. So, tell them any of the parting words for us today, or
No, thank you. And I had a great time, and hopefully I'll be back for Daryl.
oh, definitely we'll be back for Daryl and probably then some on top of it. I'm gonna start harassing the others so they come on some too here soon. So
They're bums. You don't want to work with them.
I know. I
I
mean,
work with them enough to know they're bums.
it's just I'm not taking no parting shots. I'm gonna be good. I got to come back there eventually, and they're gonna get on me when I do. So I'm gonna be nice. They're awesome guys. They are gentlemen and scholars, and I can't wait till they come back on and talk some good old movies.
Well, they'll definitely have some interesting takes. How about that?
And with that being said, we'll see you guys next time. Shalom, thanks for coming back on again. We'll see you when we do Daryl, man. Later, everybody.